I would like to go ahead and start off by doing a roll call to see who's on board. We started at 6:33 to make sure that everybody's hooked up and online and we're ready to go. And I believe there's 48 participants or 45 participants online. So, Megan, could we do a roll call?
Rector,
Here.
Store,
Present.
Summers,
Here.
Taylor,
Here.
Thorsland,
Here.
Tinsley,
Present.
Wolken,
Here.
Young,
Here.
Clemens,
Clemens would not be here, so we could go on to the next um, board member.
Coert,
Okay, Coward is not here. Could we move on to the next?
Dillard Myers,
Here.
Eisenman,
Here.
Esri,
Here.
Fears,
Okay, we could move on.
Furtado,
Here.
Goss,
Here.
Harper, Ingram,
Here.
McGuire,
Here.
Patterson,
Here.
Rosales.
Here. Uh, Great. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
So moved by Young.
1 second. I don't think Diane.
You missed
was
Michael's. Yeah, you missed my name. Michael's present.
Sorry about that,
No, it's
Diane.
okay. No,
We see
problem.
you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed there. Thank you, Diane. Okay. Diane is our newly appointed board member from the Republican Party, taking John Clifford's place. So those of you that may not be familiar with her, welcome, Diane. Okay, could I approve motion moved by Charles? Could I get a second on that? Second by Stan Harper. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I think
Okay, yeah, it was approved unanimously.
Hey,
Can I get a
Geraldo,
motion to?
Geraldo, real quick.
Yes.
Cynthia Fear trying to call me. Do you know the phone number? She want to call in. Darlene can try to get that to me. She's calling me or texting me.
I don't have that right offhand. She will have to look on her last email from Megan.
Okay.
I don't have that with me right now, Charles.
All right, that's okay. I let her know.
Okay, sure. Sorry about that.
You cool.
Great. Could I get somebody to move the minutes for the May 12, 2020 board?
So moved, Thorsland.
Moved by Thorsland, second by
Chris.
Chris Storr. Discussion, deletions, corrections? All those in favor?
I.
Aye.
I.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Real quick, this is Steph. I just put the phone number in there for you, and so did Mike. So, Charles, if you're looking at the comments, you could send that over to Cynthia.
Thank you for that, Stephanie. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, those opposed for the minutes of May 12, 2020? Okay, motion carries. Public participation. If you could raise your hand, I think I might be able to identify you on our list here. One second. Raise your hand on the by clicking on the right side of your right lower screen where it says raise hand. Okay, is that Dan? One second. Bear with me. What was that? That's not Dan. That's not Dan. It's Hall, right?
Yes,
Okay, Miss Hall, you got the floor.
thank you. Thank you, Chairperson Rosales. Good evening to the County Board, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I appreciate the time. I've come before you before, I think it was about a year ago, to talk about property tax disbursement, and that's my topic tonight. My name is Lindsay Hall. I'm the superintendent of the Mahomet Seymour Schools. As I said, my topic is the disbursement of property taxes to local taxing bodies, specifically to local school districts in Champaign County. I want to first express my appreciation to the County Board for ensuring that tax bills were sent out on time in May. This starts the important process of dispersing property taxes, which are a vital part of the revenue that public schools receive. I cannot stress enough that my school district relies on this revenue for our operations. We also appreciate the timely distribution of the first installment of property taxes, which we got approximately 1 week ago. So thank you for that. We appreciate the timeliness of those actions. Of concern, however, moving ahead is the disbursement of the second installment, which prior to 2019, school districts had received prior to June 30th. And as I'm sure you know, June 30th is the end of the fiscal year for public school districts. Last week, the chief school business official in my school district, whose name is Heather Smith, called the treasurer's office to see when we might be receiving the second distribution of property tax monies. And she was told it would be at the end of June and posted after the end of our fiscal year in early July. This is very troublesome and problematic, I'm sure, for other school districts. I'm here speaking for Mahomet Seymour in particular. And without the second property tax disbursement coming before June 30th, our fund balances are completely off in closing out the fiscal year 2020. And by receiving this disbursement after June 30th, then fiscal year 21 is also impacted. These types of irregularities have a long-term impact on our financial profile. In addition, this is the second year in a row that public school districts and other taxing bodies have had to deal with and respond to problems with property tax disbursement from the Champaign County Treasurer's Office. A year ago, my school district was poised to issue tax anticipation warrants to deal with the late payments. Issuing TAWs unnecessarily passes on costs to our taxpayers. We heard that new software, new people, lack of staff were all the reasons for the problems last year. This year, local superintendents in the county were hopeful that problems would be solved and we could return to the consistency, regularity, and efficiency that previously existed in the treasurer's office. Our hopes are dashed once again with what appears at this time to once again be late payments to local school districts, in particular with this second disbursement. We need that before June 30th. I can't stress enough to the county board that school districts and other taxing bodies need these problems addressed and rectified. We've been patient and have calmly and professionally expressed our concerns at county board meetings such as this and with personnel in the county offices. We've had enough challenges and continue to have challenges and will into the future with our finances, with the current economy of our state due to COVID-19. And our local resources have been in the past dependable and reliable. And this year and last year have caused a great lack of confidence in the office's ability to serve us properly. Late payments are serious and have long-term impacts on our financial health. And we need to be assured that this understanding is held by all who work in the county offices. As our elected officials, we look to you to effectively work on and solve these problems. Again, thank you so much for your time this evening, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you for participating, Mrs. Hall. Great. Next is John Benbenick.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. My name's John Bambanek. I am a homeowner in Champaign County. I am speaking on the flip side of the property tax problem. Is I recently refinanced my house. Went to the bank to get them the information they needed to pay property taxes at least 3 weeks ago. I see that that payment is not credited on the website, and there's a late fee assessed. I have since talked to many others throughout the county. Hundreds, if not thousands, of homeowners or property owners have not had their payments properly credited. Hearing that there's been a property tax dispersal, I have to ask questions. If you can't tell me whether I've paid my property taxes, how can you possibly know what taxing bodies are due what? Because I live in Champaign. My school district is Unit 4, not Mahomet. I have no idea how you could possibly calculate a disbursement accurately, which will continue to create some of the problems that the previous speaker mentioned and that many school districts have mentioned over the past several months and last year with the difficulties again. So I know I've talked to many people, and this is a real impact. There are people who are buying their first buying a home or selling a home or refinancing their mortgage. Closings have been disrupted because it's ambiguous about what the state of somebody's property tax bill is. This really cannot keep continuing. And while I've heard that, oh, we'll figure it out and we'll get rid of late payments once we figure things out. I mean, you've cashed a check, you've given it to property taxing bodies. I'm concerned about your ability to do that just from a business process perspective. But last year we heard that same thing. There were several property tax owners who paid their bill on time, in full, who were told, yeah, we'll fix the mistake. Yeah, we'll fix the mistake. And then they got sent to a tax sale and have to deal with tax liens on their property and have to deal with somebody collecting and doing potentially putting somebody on the road to foreclosure. And here we are, the second year where we've started this kind of dysfunction again, and it just needs to stop. This is a relatively simple process to send out bills and mark them paid. I'm a business owner. I invoice people all the time, and when people pay me, the invoices are marked in real time as paid, and I don't have to do anything, right? Except then pay my bills with it. So in the meantime, until we get some certainty that this process is actually under control, that people who are paying their bills are actually getting the bills paid, I would like this county board, either by resolution or the recorder by fiat, to say that we are not putting property tax liens on anybody's property until there is another review to make sure that people are actually delinquent in their property taxes before we start putting them on the road to potentially losing their home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bambanek, for your comments this evening. Next, we have Dan Hudson. And if you have a question, please, on your computer here at your lower right-hand side, raise your hand. I got two other additional people waiting to speak. Dan?
Hello, good evening to the council board meetings, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Dan Hudson. My family and I own Hudson Farm Weddings and Events, a wedding venue on the southeast side of Urbana. I'm just here tonight to express my concerns and my desires to reopen in a quicker fashion than what's been put out with the mandates and with the reopening phases. And I know you guys are hearing this from a lot of other business owners and restaurants and hotels and stuff of that, but I just wanted to put my voice in there as well. Just by doing a quick calculation with cancellations, reschedules, new bookings for this year and next year, and bar revenue, we're currently about $100,000 behind where we were this time last year, and about $150,000 where we were projected to be for next year. A majority of that pays staff, of course, but a lot of that goes to invoices and paying other businesses for work that they've done on our farm for improvements, and they still expect payment. The PPP helps a little, but just a little, not near what we need. If we're going to allow peaceful protests in our city, for which a overwhelming majority didn't social distance or wear masks, many of which I saw holding hands, hugging, and not wearing masks to celebrate and demonstrate something that they're passionate about, why not allow venues such as mine to allow families and friends to come together to celebrate one of their beautiful life events? I'm not one to point at other countries and say they're doing it better than we are. But in this case, I would just say, hey, look at Sweden. They've never locked down. The furthest they've gone is to highly recommend that elderly and at-risk people stay home. They give their people the freedom to assess the risk and make an individual decision and take responsibility for that decision, good or bad. I'm asking that we give ourselves that same opportunity, that same freedom to assess that risk in our lives, make a personal, responsible decision, and live with that decision, whether good or bad. And if we have to wait for a vaccine, what does that look like? How long will it take to get a vaccine? How long will they test it before they know it's safe? I know that 50% of the population is split on this. That some people want it, some people don't. Personally, I'm not really interested in a vaccine or giving one to my children that's not been tested and found safe. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thanks again for the time. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much for your comments and participation this evening, Mr. Hudson. Next, we have Annie Murray.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak again. My name's Annie Murray, co-owner of Pear Tree Estate. It's been a month since I last spoke at a county board meeting. For many business owners and employees, it's been another 28 days of trying to figure out what phase 2 and now phase 3 meant for their business and livelihood. When we last spoke, I spoke about the neighboring states opening, the economic impacts of events not happening within Champaign County, and the long-term financial effects on our community. Since then, countless counties across the state have moved forward with reopening. Our conversations with clients have turned from we can get married in neighboring states to we can get married in numerous counties across the state. In just half an hour of reaching out to other similar venues, we found that is no exaggeration. Couples can go all across the state, from Gibson City to Peoria to Oswego and El Paso to Biggsville and Peoria Heights. These businesses have the support of their local county boards and their state's attorney. They have been offered guidance, hope, and reassurance that what phase 4 means for them as business owners and for their county starting July 1. Businesses in those areas will start July with a 50% capacity inside their buildings. Now keep in mind, our neighboring states are still hosting larger events. Indiana with 250 guests as of June 14th, Ohio with 300 guests, and Iowa with a 50% capacity since May 1st. For those of you who think that businesses will be saved by PPP loans, I would invite you to look at our books. Give me a call. PPP loans were short-term Band-Aids that doesn't change the program to, even with the recent extension of terms, that doesn't change the program to benefit small businesses that have had business canceled for 6 to 12 months. Our businesses have been brought to a complete halt. I would ask you guys, have you ever wrote a check for $60,000 to Champaign County for property taxes? $1,150 a week, that is. The same county that is not helping us reopen will most definitely expect those taxes to be paid on time next year. Have you ever sat down employees of over 10 years and told them that even with your best efforts, they will be furloughed for the foreseeable future? We have. I sat in on Monday, May 29th, Champaign County Board of Health Department meeting. I listened as members of that board asked what the feedback from the Champaign County Board was on reopening. You do have a voice. You guys can make a difference. And I'm asking you, once again, to be the voice for local business. Think about your stance and actions, what they can do for the livelihood of our local community. 244 years ago, a group of people stood up for what they believed in would benefit the neighbors. You guys all are doing public service because you believe in helping other people. I'm asking you at this time to help your neighbors by working to reopen Champaign County. Give your constituents the chance to work and provide for their families. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for your participation and comments, Ms. Murray. Are there any other public comments at this time? I don't see any hands. Let me just double check. Great. We'll move on to our item 6 on the agenda, which is a presentation by the Soil and Water Conservation District. Are we on?
Hello.
Hello. Could you introduce yourself to the board?
Yes, yes. I'll introduce myself and those with me. My name is Joe Rothermel, and I'm the chairman for the Champaign County Soil and Water Conservation District. First of all, I just wanted to thank the board for letting us make this presentation. The purpose of this presentation is to inform about what the district is, what it does, and we'll talk a little bit about our funding. So with me today is Steve Steerwalt, the vice chairman for the district. Steve is also the president of the State Association of Illinois Soil and Water Conservation Districts. Our administrative coordinator, Renee Wiedekamp, is here running our projection system. And joining us from her home is our resource conservationist, Erin Bush. I don't know if you can see her, if she's on or not. Yeah, okay. There's Erin. Okay. If you go to the first slide. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yes, but it's, yes, now it's good, at least for
Okay.
me.
All right.
Can everybody see that? Good, no comments, we'll move on. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So this talks a little bit about what the district is. For some of you who may not be familiar with a soil and water conservation district. And before I go into that, the other 3 board members are listed there on the left-hand side. Eric Suits from Penfield, Eleanor Blackman from Ogden, and Lenny Heiser from Dewey. But the Soil and Water Conservation District is a local unit of government established in 1943 because of the Dust Bowl. We have no taxing authority. Like it says, we have a 5-member volunteer board, and down on the bottom, we put our mission statement, which is right off of our annual plan of work and our long-range plan. So that really kind of summarizes what the district does. And the district really is a unique organization because there's no other organization in Champaign County that does what we do, at least not that we've discovered. So that's kind of what the district is. All right. You got the clicker. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. You got, okay. On to the next one. Okay. To give a little more detail on what the district does, we've listed our top 2 fiscal year 20 priorities, and there are more than this, but we just put the top 2 on the list here, and they are soil erosion and water quality. Soil erosion continues to be an issue here in Champaign County. Over the last 5 to 10 years, there's been an increase in the number of farms with soil loss that is above the tolerable level, which we call T. And what that means is they're losing soil at a faster rate than it can regenerate. And so if you look at the big picture, it took thousands of years to develop these soils, and we've been farming them for 150 years, and we've already lost half of our organic matter. So we've gone from 7 down to 3.5 in general. And so it's a serious issue, and because we have the best soils in the world, and we really need to take care of them. So that's soil erosion. Water quality is number 1 of our priorities for this year. And as you can see from the picture on the left, Champaign County sits on top of 5 watersheds, and they're all listed there. So we have a lot of projects and grants in these watersheds where basically we help farmers implement conservation practices to help reduce soil erosion and keep our water clean. The second bullet there is something that most of you have probably read about, the nutrient loss reduction strategy. It's been in the press a lot. Illinois is the #1 exporter of nitrates, leaving the state through our rivers and streams, going down the Mississippi into the Gulf of Mexico and causing the hypoxia issue. But that also can cause problems for our local drinking water supply. So we've been very active in addressing this issue and helping farmers implement practices that keeps the fertilizer in the field and helps reduce nutrient loss. That's number 2. On to number 3. Number 3 talks a little bit about our funding and how it works here in the district. And I guess the biggest takeaway from this, if you look at the pie chart in the upper right-hand corner, it shows that over 60% of the money the district handles is pass-through money. And so it's money that goes for all those things you see over there on the left-hand side, all those projects and grants. But it leaves us it doesn't supply a lot of overhead funding for us to run the office, basically. So our funding comes from mostly, if you look at the pie chart, from Department of Ag, from state support, 21%, and also from you folks, they're showing 7%. So that's the way it works sometimes. The issue with that is that our money from our Department of Ag or from the state is unreliable. And so you can see on that bottom pie chart, for this fiscal year through May, we did not receive any money from the Department of Ag. So the money from the county board was really vital in helping us keep the office going. So we really appreciate that. And if anybody has any questions along the way, feel free to ask. So we can stop. Okay. Slide 4 shows some of the things that the county is involved in, and some of these things you folks may be familiar with. The Stormwater Partnership, or the MS4, the district here helps organize and carry out those meetings. Boneyard Creek Community Day, starting to work again a little bit with the Regional Planning Commission. Headwaters Invasive Plant Partnership, that's kind of a new project. We got a rather large grant for that. And I don't know if many of you are familiar with the STAR program. Steve, would you mind giving just a little information on that?
STAR stands for Saving Tomorrow's Agricultural Resources. It's an evaluation, verification, and recognition tool that's based on local resource concerns that started here in Champaign County, has now spread to like 70 districts across the state. And it's out in Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, Colorado, and New Mexico are also picking up the STAR program. So what we've figured out to be able to take care of our resources here in Champaign County, we needed to have something that was of interest to the big firms, the Walmart, the Waltons, and the Cortevas of the world. And so we're making what started here in Champaign County available nationwide, so we can better bring resources to Champaign County. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Thank you, Steve. A couple other things on the list that you've probably seen: natural resource reports, and we do a lot of education here in the district. And some of the things we've done recently are listed down there on the bottom. Okay, slide titled Return on Investment. Basically what this shows is that over the last 10 years, the money from the county board has helped us put over $2 million back into Champaign County. And so we use that money to leverage these grants and projects and to put the money back into the county. And some of the ways that is done is listed here on the left side. Probably one of the biggest one is the CRP program. That's NRCS's biggest conservation program. You see all the filter strips and waterways. And so we help administer that program that puts a lot of money into the area to local farmers. Some of the new and upcoming things that we're working on, you can see the list there. A lot of activity. Just 3 of those that I would like to highlight. The first one is the Illinois EPA 319 Big Ditch, and that is a grant that's going to be up in the Big Ditch area, which is up in the Rantoul area and flows south into the Mahomet area. So what we'll do there is help farmers learn about and adopt conservation practices to help reduce nutrient loss and soil erosion. So that'll include things like no-till and cover crops and nutrient management plans and things like that. So it'll help us provide a lot of cost share to local area farmers. So that's one of the big projects that's coming up. One of the events that Aaron has been planning is called the Lady Landowner event. Aaron, do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, the Lady Landowner event will focus on women in agriculture in general, and hopefully highlight multiple generations in the households of women involved in agriculture. And we're going to partner with American Farmland Trust, working with Champaign County women to come together and learn about farming operations in Champaign County, soil health, water quality, and conservation practices in general, and strengthen and empower women to continue their work in agriculture.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. So those are just some of the new and upcoming projects that we've got going on. And the last slide just kind of summarizes some of the things we talked about. Like I said before, we're a unique organization. Nobody else does what we do. We bring a lot of people and projects together. And we really appreciate the county board because, like I said before, our state funding is just unreliable. And the county board has just been a great partner to have to help us keep the doors open and keep functioning. So we thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions?
Chris Storr, do you have any questions? I know that you were very concerned regarding issues circling around the Mahomet Aquifer. How does this conservatory of water, river or groundwater affect the Mahomet Aquifer? This is Board Chair Rosales.
The Mahomet Aquifer, it recharges from different areas in the county, and by the efforts of the Soil and Water Conservation District center around improving the soil health and keeping nutrients from moving. So the more work we can do to keep surface water, keep our nutrients from getting into surface water, keep soil that causes turbidity, the better job we can help with those recharge spots that recharge our Mahomet Aquifer.
Thank you for your answer. Are there any further questions for the board?
Yeah, Chair Rosales.
Yes, Chris Storr.
Thank you. That was a good question about the Mahomet Aquifer. Thank you for asking that. Does the Soil and Water Conservation District have much interaction with the Lincoln Heritage Resource Conservation and Development Group?
Yes, the RC&D. Yes,
because they do work with trying to control invasive species.
Yes, the county has been a great partner for us with the RC&D. Some past chairmen have served on RC&D board, and we're still very involved with the RC&D, both with as you say, invasive species. And the RC&D does a lot of work with filter strips and helping to maintain those filter strips so they keep doing their job well. But yes, we have a representative that represents the Champaign County Soil and Water Conservation District on the RC&D. And so it is a great partner for us.
I think that's Bruce Strikers, and I think is one of the people that used to represent for you.
Yes.
Yes.
Bruce Sticker still represents us. Yes.
And he does a very good job. He's very active. I commend your work on erosion control, and I share your concerns as an agronomist. I have a degree in that field. I share your concern about soil loss, and it just pains me to see some farmers who plow and plant right up to the ditch. What incentives and does the Soil and Water Conservation District have to try to help these folks improve their farming practices and help us retain the not only the nutrients but also the topsoil that we lose, the organic matter? Over.
To your point about the farming right up to the ditch, the Soil and Water Conservation District probably 10 years ago had a really large effort to armor both sides of our ditches, and we've had some slippage in the last couple of years, but we had at one time 70% of our waterways, our ditches and rivers covered by filter strips. And anyone that has traveled outside of Champaign-Urbana in the last few weeks or the last couple of years can notice the damage that's caused by these as the climate changes and we get more frequent, heavier events that is really damaging our soil and taking it with. And so to your point, the no-till and cover crops is a big emphasis that the district has, working with farmers to teach them how the technical assistance. As Joe said, one of the things that we offer is technical assistance that is unbiased and not from a fertilizer company. We have technical people that are there. Conservation is what we do. We're not out there promoting other things. We promote conservation. So we try to teach people, and the STAR program actually evaluates the farmers from a 1 to 5 star on their conservation efforts. It's all about the practices the farmers use, and 5-star is the highest rating on practices. And we're starting to get interest from Kellogg's, Bunge, Corteva is interested in. There a lot of industry have, everyone has a sustainability plan, and we're poised to help these companies, with their sustainability plans by helping get funding from them to help farmers do better jobs with conservation. So the STAR program was designed to do that.
Chair Rosales, if you will indulge me one more time, I urge the Soil and Water Conservation District to use their GIS resources along with the new and historical county aerial photography to help identify problem areas, and I can lend my expertise in that if that's wanted, and because the wealth of our state and especially our county lies in our soil, and that's something that's worth the effort of trying to reach out to farmers who may need that technical assistance, to put it politely. Thank you, Chair Rosales.
I would love to invite you, Chris, to, we have groups that work on our science committee to advise help advise farmers how to do things. And if you're interested, we sure welcome you to our group and give input, because your training would certainly be useful.
I had one. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Thank you.
Chris.
We can contact each other offline, and
Thank you.
I'd be glad to work with you.
I had one additional question. Are your meetings open to the public? And if they are, how often do you meet?
Yes, they're open to the public, and we meet once a month, usually in the evening, depending on if we're farming or not. Usually around 5 o'clock in the evening.
What municipality?
I'm sorry?
What municipality do you meet in here in Champaign?
We're in the FSA, the Ag Service building out on what's our street?
Yeah.
Country Fair Drive.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, here locally in town. Okay, great.
Yes, yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing out the staff and supporting the county board and sharing this information that many of us, it was a hidden secret. I didn't realize that it became a board in 1940 as a result of the Dust Bowl water issues that were occurring in the United States. But thank you very much for participating and sharing this information with us. Are there any further questions from the board regarding this presentation? Well, thank you for your participation in tonight's meeting, and we look forward to your next presentation with us.
Okay, thank you for allowing us to present.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to board communications, item number 7 on your agenda. Are there any board members that want to make any announcements, any comments regarding activities that happened this month or is going to happen this month? I don't see any hands up. So let me double check. Seeing none, I will move on to items. Yes? I heard Hummer or something. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, policy, personnel, and appointment. I believe John Brechter will take the lead on this section. Is that correct, Charles?
That is correct.
Okay, John, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Rosales. Item 8, County Executive. The monthly HR report for May 2020 is on file. On to appointments. When I ask for the motion, if you'd please move the motion and then say your name so that the secretary can get the first and the second. These are the county executives' appointments for Drainage District Number 2, Town of Scott. The county executive appoints Larry Zond, who is appointed to an unexpired term ending 8/31/2022. Could I have a motion, please?
John, we're hearing an echo as you speak. Is there something additional you have there on?
No, there is not.
Okay. I thought you would be in the shower.
Negative.
Okay, Stan made that motion. Stan Harper. Second by who?
Goss.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Eastern Illinois Economic Development Authority Board, the county executive appoints Dale Crane, who was appointed to an unexpired term ending 1/22/2025. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved, Goss.
Second, Michael.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. For the Bailey Memorial Cemetery Association, the county executive appoints Gary Fisher, who is reappointed to a term 7/1/2020 to 6/30/2026. Thomas Barnhart, who is reappointed to a term 7/1/2020 to 6/30/2026. And Michael J. Freeze Jr., who is reappointed to a term 7/1/2020 to 6/30/2026. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second, Essery.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. For the Prairie View Cemetery Association, the county executive appoints Pamela Carpenter, who is reappointed to a term 7/1/2020 to 6/30/2026. Mark Shaw, who is reappointed to a term 7/1/2020 to 6/30/2026. And Clark Wise, who is reappointed to a term 7/1/2020 to 6/30/2026. Can I have a motion, please?
So move, Jim McGuire.
Second, Wolken.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For the Mount Olive Cemetery Association, the county executive reappoints David McCormick, who is reappointed to a term 7/1/2020 to 6/30/2026. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved, Wolken.
Second, Cowart.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Motion carries. For the Yearsley Cemetery Association, Philip Roy Nigg, who is reappointed to a term 7/1/2020 to 6/30/2026. Can I have a motion?
Motion by Michaels. Second, Wolken.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For the Champaign County Board of Health, John Peterson, who is reappointed to a term 7/1/2020 to 6/30/2023.
So moved, Taylor. Second, Cowart.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. For the Champaign County Forest Preserve, Andrew Cairns, who is reappointed to a term 7/1/2020 to 6/30/2025.
So moved, Thorsland.
Second, Taylor.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For the Sangamon Valley Public Water District, Michelle Grindley, who is appointed to a term 6/1/2020 to 5/31/2025.
So moved, Goss.
Second, Rosales.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Rector, Jim Goss.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was one of the people who opposed this last time. I did not have an opportunity to speak with Kerry Giffords, who runs the Sangamon Valley Water District, to talk to him about this. I have since had the opportunity to talk to him and believe that Michelle is the correct choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. The county clerk's May 2020 report is on file. Is there any other business?
I have a question, clerk, if I could address the clerk now so he could go home.
Oh, yes, Jim, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Goss.
Yeah, Clerk Ammons, I appreciate you staying this evening, and this really fits better in finance, but I didn't want, if you didn't want to hang around, I didn't want to delay that because I'm not sure how much longer we've got here to go. I really have three questions that are just kind of yes and no, and they deal with the tax cycle that's happened here in the last couple of years. And really, the first one is who takes responsibility in your office for, or ultimately for the tax cycle? Is that you, or is it a tax specialist, or who is the responsible party in your office? Who should we direct questions to if we have questions?
So before I answer any questions, I'm going to take this opportunity to say the name of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and so many other folks who have been killed. And it's really troubling to me that this entire board has been opened and not a single person has spoken to the fact that our country is on fire based upon the unjust killing of yet another African-American man. And we have these demonstrations that are taking place in our own county because of this. And it's just really interesting that nobody has taken the time to speak to it at all. So to who all are listening from the public, this is the type of thing that we have to address in our community, because I don't see why no one, including Mr. Goss, especially Mr. Goss, has not taken the time to say, let me at least acknowledge what's going on in our community and in our country. So now to your question, Mr. Goss, in my office, and I'm sure you know, the buck stops with me. So what exactly is your real question?
So you're accountable for what goes on in your office as well.
Mr. Goss, what is your question?
Okay. Are you aware that the mistakes made by your office in the 2018 tax cycle that caused the real estate tax levy issues for CUPHD and Champaign County Public Library or Champaign Public Library, they caused corrections that needed to be made in the 2019 tax cycle, and it forced significant increases, especially on the CUPHD side, from 48 to 52% increases for 2019 for taxpayers.
So I don't know if I understand your question. It was a pretty long question. What exactly are you asking me?
Okay, do you realize the problems that happened last year in the tax cycle that has to do with CUPHD and the Champaign County Public Library?
Am I aware of any issues like that? Yes, I am.
Okay, so how did you rectify that situation? Because it appears that we have a similar issue this year, and I'm trying to figure out for taxing bodies and taxpayers so we get these things corrected at the beginning.
So I have been in numerous conversations with CU Public Health District, and any taxing body that has questions for me can direct those questions to me themselves. I don't know why you feel like it's your responsibility to ask me these questions.
Sir, I'm asking you, how did you rectify the situation in your office where mistakes were clearly made?
Yeah, Jim, that is not an answer that is going to take 2 minutes or a yes or no question. This is something that has been discussed with CU Public Health District at length, their board and everybody else. So that.
Clerk Ammons, here's the problem. It hasn't been discussed in the public domain, and therefore that's why I'm asking the question in the public domain.
Jim, this is a conversation that should take place someplace else right now. This is not the question.
Sir, this is a question for the public to have an understanding why there are mistakes being made at the clerk's office. It has to do.
So that's your real question. The reason why that mistakes are made by any human being is because we're human. All right. Now, the second thing is, no, the second thing is because you and the other Republicans orchestrated the exodus of all the experience out of the office. That's part of the reason why we're also having some of these particular concerns. So if we're going to have a conversation about what's happening in that office, you're going to have a full conversation about what you all did to sabotage and condemn the office to put us in this situation and to put taxpayers in this particular situation.
Sir, I could not tell you other than Sasha Green. I couldn't tell you the other people that worked in the clerk's office before because honestly, we didn't have problems where I needed to go in there. So
Okay.
I had no reason to sabotage those folks. Listen, I want this county to work. I don't care whether there's R or D or behind your name. I want the county to work
But
and
you
the
don't.
taxpayers. I've spent 90 minutes a day the last week. Now, most of that is not directly to you. That'll be addressed with the treasurer. So 90 minutes a day for the last week solving issues that should not be issues at the county. So this is not to you. By the way, this is not directed at you. I'm just asking this question because you have chosen to speak in public participation and not come to the board and speak during this time. So that's why I'm asking these questions on the public record now.
Jim, you have had every opportunity. Have you called my office to speak to me or my
Sir,
lead tax
listen.
specialist about this at once, anytime? I have had tax town halls in your district that you chose not to show up to.
I happen to be
You
on
made it
vacation.
clear because you feel like you're gaining some sort of political points by bringing me into the public and trying to rake me over the coals, so to speak, about some perceived mistake or mistake that did happen that I have already addressed. This is just some political gamesmanship by you and your local Republican Party, and it's not going to be tolerated, Jim. So if you have a real question for me, then I'll answer a real question that you have about a specific issue that is present and current, that's ongoing. Otherwise, I'm not dealing with all of that.
Okay, sir, you've chosen, just like always, to not answer the questions that are of public nature. So, Mr. Rector, I am done.
Are there any other questions for Clerk Ammons at this point in time? So I'm just going to make a general comment. Thank you for being on the call. I encourage Julia, George, Aaron, anybody who's an elected official to join us in public participation so we can talk these out.
So I just want to say very quickly that the ongoing situation that has come up, that I got an email that I was asked to come here to speak about some ongoing issues. And so I'm being asked questions about things that are not an ongoing issue. And the issue that was ongoing is the Rantoul TIF conversation that's going on in District 1 for the TIF 1. So I'm going to read to you something that I want to be in the public record that came from the superintendent of school in Rantoul. This is Scott Amario saying that I understand that there's nothing that can be done about this situation at this point, and you can instruct us how to levy in the future. I guess what we'll have to do from now on is greatly overinflate our levy, which I am sure will create a lot of misunderstanding and consternation with our taxpayers. Of course, our only option will be to explain to them that the county clerk's office has a history of not providing all of the information that we need to make an accurate levy, so we have to do it this way. The situation is frustrating between the two school districts. There was about $1 million in lost revenue. Also, just so there are no surprises, I have reached out to one of our county board representatives to explain all this to him because I feel that the entire board needs to be aware of this situation. Now, this is something that was sent to me with a very threatening overtone from a superintendent of schools in Rantoul about a perceived mistake that we made in my office. I want to say again very clearly for everyone in the public record, it is not the legal responsibility for the county clerk's office to provide, track, or guide any taxing levy body about the TIF district. That is their responsibility, their fiduciary responsibility, not mine. Furthermore, there's a joint review board that is supposed to meet yearly, annually, according to the statute, 65 ILCS 5/1174. so that all the school district is supposed to attend the annual joint review board meeting to make sure they are apprised of all developments. That is the meeting where the TIF would probably be discussed. I'll say also that there was an article in the May 21st, 2019 Rantoul Press describing from Mayor Smith, that the TIF was going to end in 2019. So the body that has the power to implement the TIF and the power to close the TIF announced it in the Rantoul Press that it would be ending at the year in 2019. So all taxing bodies would then have the opportunity to recoup those dollars of equalized assessed value. They did not do that. And so instead, Mr. Mario and Ms. Ramage and Kendra Good are trying to blame my office, much in the same way everything else is being blamed on my office and me. So I wanted to make sure that you all were aware of that. Now, Kendra Good was also, she called my office, talked to AJ Jimenez, who is the lead tax extension specialist in my office. And she told him about a conversation she had with Sasha Green, who was the lead tax extension specialist, who did not serve under me. So she asked Sasha when it was coming off, and Sasha told her it was coming off in 2019. So the very person that they put all the faith in, who told them when it was coming off, and just because the leadership changes in the office doesn't mean that the law changes. So I don't have any control over the TIF. I don't put it on. I don't take it off, and it is not my responsibility to track it and to let the other taxing bodies know. So Scott Amario has reported to Ms. Ramage, and Kendra Good has reported to Ms. Ramage that they had a meeting, that Scott Amario was in a meeting with me in October of 2019. In that meeting, it was myself, my chief of staff, my tax extension division, Andy Rhodes, and Paula Bates, along with Scott Amario, Gary Lewis, and one other individual. Now, nobody else in this meeting remembers Mr. Mario asking us anything about a TIF district. Andy Rhodes doesn't remember having that conversation, and he would be the one who would have answered such a question because I had only been there for 10 months and my staff had not been there very long. So nobody else remembers the conversation except Scott Amario. All right. Now, Ramage states that information changed once the leadership changed in my office. The key point is that the law didn't change. I want to keep reiterating that. So since Kendra Good and Ms. Ramage was so confident in the information they received from the previous administration, why did they second guess it once I became clerk? I don't control when TIFs are implemented or when they are removed. That's the responsibility of the village board. And that's why the village board had put the information in the Rantoul Press so that all the taxing bodies would know when the TIF was coming off. Now, I organized an educational session for all the road commissioners who were up in arms because they thought I was changing everything, and I haven't heard a word from them since. I organized 6 tax town halls, one of them in Rantoul, that none of the people who are complaining about information sharing now even bother to attend. Not Michelle Ramage, not Kendra Good, not Scott Amario, nor any of the county board members that represent Rantoul. Ramage has gone to the press or has gone to her board and spoken publicly and said that I gave some information to Mr. Amario and to Ms. Good that was false information, and therefore I am responsible and my office is responsible for some shortfall that they did not receive. Well, Ms. Ramage has not called me. Well, she called me about 4 days ago and had a conversation with me. But when I sent emails to her to ask her about this, she refused to respond to my emails and then finally called me and told me that there was nothing to talk about. Okay. Now, this is a superintendent of the schools who's blaming me and my office for a $700,000 shortfall that they don't have access to. And she doesn't have any evidence, no statutory obligations that belong to me or my office. She doesn't have an email, a letter, a text message, a voicemail. She has nothing that says that I told Scott Amario anything. And yet she believed what came from Scott Amario and Kendra Good without even calling me once to get my side of the story. That's the level of professionalism that I'm speaking to, or lack of professionalism that the previous superintendent spoke to, that I'm not receiving. I'm not getting that level of professionalism. So in conclusion, I want you to remember the tone of the email that was sent to me by Scott Amario on April 18th is when he sent it to me, threatening to go to the public and talk to county board members and blame me for not giving him the right information. And so I want you to compare this now to this email that he just sent to Michelle Ramage. He says on June 1st, excuse me.
Hey,
He said, I
Aaron.
included both of this email. I'm almost done. I included both of you in this email so that we're all on the same page. We know Dave Hinton is going to do a story. He's referring to the Rantoul Press, which will most likely end up in the News Gazette. Many times when that happens, we get a call from Channel 3 or Fox to cover the story. I have no desire to talk to either one of them, but that only works if we all agree that that's the best course of action. He's trying to get us to go along with some sort of cover up here. And then Ms. Ramage comes in and says, thank you for the email. I will not talk to WCIA or Fox. I did not call Rantoul Press or any media. This was a report to my board. That was the only intent. So now you have the two superintendents of schools in cahoots, hiding from the press. So you're
Aaron,
talking about me being
Aaron.
able to come and speak to. I'm almost done.
Aaron, we got a long, dude, we got a long meeting. I got to let people respond here.
No, you keep calling me here, so I'm going to speak my piece and then I'll give it back.
Aaron, I'm chairing this part of the meeting with all due respect. I wasn't expecting all this to go into the full thing on the Rantoul. It was a few basic questions. So I need to get.
It wasn't basic questions. That's not true. I'm almost done, John. You're taking up all the time right now. I could just read my finished points and then I'll be done.
We asked.
I have been attacked by the Republicans since I came.
Aaron, this is my part of the meeting. Aaron,
John,
I'm running this part of the meeting. This is my part of the meeting. I'm getting asked to keep continuing.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions they want to ask Aaron? Any other questions?
I don't have any questions, but I'll have to say that I am rather surprised to hear this topic come up and a little disappointed that it hasn't been resolved in such a way so that everybody gets their tax money and in a timely way and affords the courtesies that we normally would any other person, including elected officials. And I'm a little quite disappointed and distressed to hear about this. And thank you, Mr. Rector.
Thank you. I'm trying to value everybody's time. I know this is a huge topic. I apologize for cutting you off, Aaron. I'm just kidding. So, any other questions related to this?
John, I only have a couple of things to say and I'll be out of here.
Aaron, dude, man,
asking these questions. Why don't you just let me finish?
Aaron, because I'm getting pushed by others to, I'm getting pushed by others to keep the agenda going. This is you talking and everybody else talking. It's a horrible thing what happened in Rantoul. I understand. I'm not putting blame on anybody. It's horrible. We need to fix it. And we need to move forward.
And it does not belong on me, but you all continue to try to put it on me and then don't give me the opportunity to clear the record.
Aaron, I'm not throwing any of this on you. Obviously, it was.
I'd have been done by now if you just let me finish.
But I'm getting pushed by others to keep the agenda going.
Well, those same others should have also said that there was no need for me to come here. Because I don't have any business before the board right now. I came because you all asked me to come, because Jim Goss asked me to come, and he said that Jody Woken and Diane Michaels might have questions for me as well. So I came. So now I want to say my piece, and then I'm being cut off and I'm being muted and all kind of stuff. Okay. Now, I have been attacked by the Republicans since I was elected. And I know it's hard to accept that you lost the seat that you held for almost 80 years to an outspoken Black man. But does your hatred for me supersede the business of the people? Okay. Now, is it that I'm a Black man, or is it that I'm a Democrat that causes you all these problems to make your blood boil? Furthermore, since I was asked to come to the meeting to answer questions on the public record by Mr. Goss in particular, who doesn't even represent Rantoul, I'd like to know, Mr. Goss, why are you on Facebook defending Nazis in groups like Patriot Front and Reclaim America, the ones who were in Charlottesville, Virginia?
Point of order. Shut him off.
Aaron,
This is getting way out of hand.
This has nothing to. I'm chairing this part of the meeting. If you're going to start attacking him and us,
we should be able to.
I've been under attack since I got here.
Aaron, we're
talking. Be able to ask questions about elected officials.
Yeah.
Aaron, we try to get all of you here. Aaron, we try to get you and Julia and George and Marisol and everyone to come and share with us. So I understand you have.
Elected officials should be able to have their performance questioned without making charges of racism.
Well, it's not a charge. It's a very clear fact that you are a racist.
Okay.
You shouldn't be making charges of racism.
Maybe you and the leaders of your Republican.
Shut him down.
Chair Rosales. Chair Rosales.
Hello, could we move on? This has gotten a little off of discussion. I would like to move into item D, Chair's Report, County Executive Appointments expiring July 1st, 2020 for information only. Are there any questions or any comments by the board for that point? Do you want to continue with that, John? Champaign County Housing Authority, one position, term August 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2025.
That's correct. That's for information only. Also, the other full list is available on the website. Designation of items to be placed on the consent agenda. 8A, 2A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I. Back to you, Chair Rosales.
Thank you very much for your report. Next, we'll go on to Kyle
Excuse me,
Patterson.
Geraldo, did you have I in there, John?
I'm sorry, where are you?
The consent agenda?
I wasn't consent.
I is not consent. There were a couple of us voted nay on I. AI.
Aaron, thank you. My mistake.
Did you make that notation, Megan and John, as well? Okay. Are there any further comments before we close this section? Great. Item number 9, Justice and Social Services. Kyle Patterson.
Thank you. For this month, we have the monthly reports from Probation, Court Services, and Public Defender, which are available at the county's website. We also have the Rosecrans Reentry Financial Report for information only for April of 2020. And that is in your packet. Was there any questions about the Rosecrans report? Jim McGuire, is your hand up?
Oh, thanks.
I don't think so. Maybe not. Okay. All right, no questions on that. For the chair's report, I did want to make a statement tonight. I want to speak on the events that have been going on all over the nation and all over the world over the past 15 days. As a nation, we were all devastated by the footage of George Floyd being murdered. For many of us, it's the pain that's all too familiar, and we know so many names before this one. This event has ignited many conversations about racial inequities and criminal justice reform, and much has been said over the past 15 days, including voices within many of our own communities in Champaign County. But what I want to say today is to encourage everyone to take this event as a moment to take a step back and really listen to the voices that are stepping forward to be heard. really take the time to hear others who are speaking from the heart about their experiences. The only way for us, the only way that we will begin to overcome these issues is if we can have some understanding of one another. And that begins with listening to our neighbors. Thank you. Back to you, Chair Rosales.
Thank you for your report, Kyle. Next, item 10, finance, Jim Boss.
Thank you, Chair Rosales, and Kyle, thank you for those words. Much appreciated. I believe in that as well. If you have an issue with me, I would like to, or have an issue, please raise your hand on this. I would like to do an omnibus motion for finance items A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, which all have to do with the Carl property tax refund interest charge. Is there anyone who has an issue with me reading those? It'll be quite long, but at least it'll be one vote. Is there anybody that has an issue? Please raise your hand if you do. Okay, seeing none, please bear with me. Number one, budget amendment 20-00022 from Fund 080 General Corporate to Department 075 General County. Increased appropriations of $4,095, increased revenue of negative 530, or increased revenue of negative $530,637. And I will give this reason now, but it will be the same reason for all of these. This is for the court-ordered refund for the Carl Foundation property tax exemption case recorded as a reduction of property tax revenues and post-judgment interest costs as an increased expenditure. Item 2, budget amendment 20-00023, Fund 080 General Corporate to Department 017 Cooperative Extension Service, increased appropriations of $146. Increased revenue is again a negative $18,895. Budget amendment 20-00024 from Fund 088 Illinois Municipal Retirement to Fund Department 073 Illinois Municipal Retirement. Increased appropriations are $866. Increased revenue is negative $112,132. Budget amendment 20-00025 from Fund 089 to County Public Health Fund, Department 049 Board of Health. Increased appropriations are $420. Increased revenue is negative $54,389. Budget amendment 20-00027, Fund 076 Toward Immunity Tax Fund to Department 075 General County. Increased appropriations $824. Increased revenue is a negative $106,658. Budget amendment 20-00030, Fund 188 Social Security Fund to Department 075 General County. Increased appropriations $716. Increased revenue is a negative $92,707. Budget amendment 20-00031 for Fund 090 Mental Health to Department 053 Mental Health Board. Increased appropriations are $1,648. Increased revenue is a negative $213,491. Budget amendment 20-00032, Fund 108 Developmental Disability Fund to Department 050 Developmental Disability Board. Increased appropriations are $1,363. Increased revenue is a negative $176,585. Budget amendment 20-00026 to Fund 083 County Highway
Department 060 Highway. Increased appropriations are $884. Increased revenue is negative $114,427. Budget amendment 20-00028 for Fund 084 County Bridge to Department 060 Highway. Increased appropriations in the amount of $443. Increased revenue negative $57,390. And finally, budget amendment 20-00029 to Fund 103 Highway Federal Aid Matching Fund to Department 060 Highway. Increased appropriations of $36, increased revenue of negative $4,592. My apologies. Is there such a motion?
I'll move it.
Ms.
Second.
Furtado?
Second,
Second.
Summers.
Summers, thank you. Is there discussion on these budget amendments? Mr. Patterson, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, just real quick. So I understand this is from the Carl settlement, but is there? I know that we are still there's still an ongoing appeal. Is this because the initial circuit level decision?
Yeah, it's what we were required to pay. I guess if we went in the appeal, we would get this money back. Ms. Ogden, am I correct in that assumption? Do you know?
I would rather not comment on that. I think that's more of a legal question.
Okay. Okay, so same for me, Kyle. That's my assumption, but I don't know. Other questions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay.
Jim, do we need does that need to be roll call for budget amendment?
Not at the committee meeting.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
No problem. So I have that as passing unanimously. Okay, item 12, budget amendment 20-00033, Fund 104, Early Childhood Fund to Department 876, Early Head Start, EXP Cares. Increased appropriations of $80,000, increased revenue of $80,000. This is, I would just make a note, this is money. There's a couple of memos in here that are very similar, but this is money that comes from the CARES, through the CARES program. And it's, a lot of it has to do with teaching our early Head Start and our early childhood folks how they're going to end up having to sanitize and train them how to, I mean, a lot of it's janitorial, but a lot of it's training as well. So is there a motion?
So moved.
Ingram. Mr. Ingram, second. Mr. Rosales, discussion, please. Okay, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. Okay, motion passes. Item number 13, budget amendment 20-00034 for Fund 104, Early Childhood Fund to Department 875, Head Start, Early Head Start Cares. Increased appropriations of $507,000, increased revenue $507,000. Similar reasoning as the last one, it's just a different fund. Is there a motion?
So move, Coward.
Moved by Ms. Coward. Is there a second?
Second,
Second,
Rosales.
Fears. Second, Fears. Discussion. Kyle, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, is there anybody here from?
Yeah, is there anyone here from RPC?
That's the reason I couldn't answer the phone call. That's fine. Love you too.
I don't believe there is.
Hey.
I don't believe so, Kyle.
I don't believe there is.
if Kyle, if you would like, we could have them available at the county board meeting. We could hold this off the consent.
I
if
mean,
you had a
I
question.
honestly, I don't have any concerns. I was just more curious to know like what specifically some of this money was going towards, just out of curiosity. So it's not a big deal.
Okay, I was going to say, I think they've got it spelled out.
I can maybe.
Spelled out. Go ahead, Darlene.
Yeah, I can maybe answer. So the Regional Planning Commission has several sites that provide early childhood care. So they are considered sort of the same as daycare centers. And so they have to do the kinds of sanitation and social distancing and trying to keep the kids in small groups and just all these kinds of different things that they're going to have to be doing in order to reopen. And so this is partly the training and partly the actual supplies and people they're going to need to do some of these things.
Also, I would direct your attention to pages 51 and 52. They do have a good, it's actually on the front and back of that page. So it lists out all the different expenses. So there are employees, time, and
Yeah, what I had kind of some curiosity about was it looks like there's 2 full-time employees, and I was just curious to know what positions those would be.
I didn't hear what you asked me. To what?
So there's 2 full-time employees that are funded by this second grant, and I just didn't know what positions those were.
I'm not sure, but I would suspect that there are additional cleaning people.
no, I don't know, at 80,000.
Well, I know that they an issue is the reduced classroom size, so that it's just a dumb type.
Right. They also might need additional aides. They have specific class sizes they have to maintain, so it could be an additional aide. But and I'm not sure they'll be full-time people, but they would be full-time equivalents.
Yeah, it looks like a 1 1/4.
So it could, but equivalent, it might be a few extra hours for different people. It's not all one person.
It is plural, employees, not one.
Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay, item B, treasurer, the monthly report this month is the first distribution settlement report. And I apologize, I think Treasurer Hughes is on the call. Yes, Treasurer Hughes is on the call, so I know there's probably questions from the board as we've all been inundated with questions about the tax cycle. So if you've got questions, I'll save mine to the end and
Do you
let
hear me?
you folks ask it.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can,
Okay,
Marcel.
can I speak first, and after that, maybe if they have question, I will happy to answer the questions. Will be okay for you? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. The Treasury Office has been extremely busy. The tax cycle due date for the first installment was June 1st. So now we are working to finish posting the large volume of payments. The process is very time consuming as we are working with different systems to export the information to the tax system that will reflect the balance of the payments made by taxpayers. Staff shortages and an antiquated payment system have exacerbated our work delays. We have been working long hours to complete our work. We had other daily finance activities to attend to in addition to the tax cycle. As the county treasurer, I need to train my staff, take care of my daily correspondence, and attend meetings. Every day I correct errors from the previous administration and work to solve the issues I inherited. The focus of my office is to finish processing payments to be ready for the next distribution, since the first distribution was on June 1st. We can concentrate solely on the bank reconciliations since we need to finish the process of the first installment of the tax cycle. My goal this week is to hire a temporary employee for the 3 months to work on 2019 bank reconciliations. The auditor's office has offered to work with us. They will provide the information we need to make the necessary adjustments. For 2020 bank reconciliations, I have been working with the person in charge of the AS400 accounting program, Bill Summary. We created an option in the AS400 for bank reconciliations. This new feature gives us the information we need to work faster, more efficiently, and provide accurate information. Our commitment is to give you satisfactory on-time results. I need to train my staff to produce accurate bank reconciliation. Our work is delayed due to the numerous issues we face. Over the last 3 months, working as a treasurer has been challenging. I am facing many fundamental issues while training to improve efficiency, productivity, and develop faster procedures. Problems: a lack of communication between departments. Mass coordination between departments is required to get the tax bill mailed, but there is not enough communication. Many errors will be avoided if we communicate about our department process. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have questions?
Alejandra is going to talk also, if you mind, about what we have been doing, what we have processing without payments. Alejandra.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Marisol wanted me to share a little bit about the process. It seems like there's not enough information out there to the public. So we've had a lot of phone calls, a lot of questions. The phones are ringing from 8 to 5 every 5 seconds. And we only have 2 full-time staff members and 1 part-time help. And so just to give you an idea of the type of calls that we've been getting, so the calls, yes, are related to posting payments, as well as ACH automatic payments, automatic payment withdrawals. And perhaps it's important to know that, or let the public know that we are working with several systems, and we have approximately 7 collection methods. And for every method, there has to be some type of verification. So we verify that the funds are successfully deposited to the county accounts. And once that has been completed, then we clean up lists if that verification for the payments was sent via a special list in a special format. Or in other cases, you know what, we have to manually update the system. So we have to scan coupons into our tax system so that we can post the payment. And once that payment is posted, it'll take several days for that system to update the public webpage where everyone can look up their tax bills. So it's quite a process. Again, we're working as fast as we can. We have been communicating with banks and are asking our collector banks to work with us and perhaps send us lists that could be exported or imported into our tax system so that we could work a little faster. Additionally, there again, another example of a payment collection method is via the GovTech system, so with credit card payments, and those are, payments that also have to be verified. We have to make sure that credit cards weren't rejected or that banks weren't rejected as well before we post the payments. Otherwise, we're having to post payments not verifying that they've been paid, and then 1 week or 2 weeks later finding out that the payments were rejected. And so that's just a small example of several issues that we have been facing. Another problem perhaps that we discovered this week is that while processing the ACH, automatic payment withdrawal, taxpayers are given the opportunity to voluntary or to volunteer automatic payment deduction from their accounts. And so we include a slip with the tax bills, and the taxpayer is able to complete this form and sign up with automatic payment withdrawal with the county. But sometimes a very small percentage, it's not happened a lot, taxpayers forget to inform us. They forget to inform us that they've sold their property, and they forget to inform us that we need to discontinue or deactivate that ACH withdrawal, automatic withdrawal that they originally authorized. And so we recommend that this takes place at least give us 10 days before the tax bills are due. That would avoid a lot of problems that we're trying to fix at this moment. I guess finally, I want to answer Mr. Bembenek's question about how property taxes are distributed if we're not posting all of the payments. Well, we are doing the exact same thing that former treasurers had been doing, which is you make several distributions throughout from here on forward. Or throughout the tax collection process. We've made our first distribution on June 1st, and we're getting ready to make our second distribution. And the distribution is based on the amount collected for each district at the time of the distribution. Thank you.
Diane Michaels, you have a question, then Jody Eisman.
Yes, sir, I do. I just have a question. I know several financial institutions, I've gotten some calls from it, physically brought in coupons after the money, of course. Some money's been taken on time out of their financial institutions, some not. I personally dropped them off to the bank several weeks ago. My question is more this: I understand you're behind. I don't know how far behind. Are we 1, 2, 3 weeks behind? And then the second part of that question is, if, as we know that's the case, I would think within the system, because I thought we had a new system for the taxing, that we could at least turn those fees off in the first installment, because part of the problem is coming. Also, I have some friends that just went through some closings and they show not paid or even a fee. And I didn't know if there was some way with IT that they could at least turn off those fees on that first installment. Because that tends to make people nervous.
Thank you for that question, Diane. So the fee is automatically removed by the system once we post the payment. So anything that was received at our office, either was dropped off or mailed prior to June 1st or on June 1st, is not going to have any late fees or penalties applied.
Ms. Eisenman.
I just wanted to say that you girls have stepped into positions that you couldn't pay me enough money in the world to take over. And there just isn't enough kindness in the world. So I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. And You've been given a huge task, and I just want to thank you for getting the tax statements out on the bills out on time and getting the money to the schools, because that is huge, as Dr. Hall said. So thank you for that. And I just wish that if we all could just be patient, and I'm sure that you'll get it worked out. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you for your kind comment, Jody. We were very proud to make the distribution to our taxing bodies. As you say, you know, it was very much needed within the districts.
Mr. Ingram.
Somebody's ringtone's going. Hey y'all. I would echo Ms. Eisenman's comments there. I agree. You guys are dealing with a whole bunch over there, and nobody would really want to jump into a situation like that if they could help it. I do think that Ms. Michaels was maybe trying to get to a point of even knowing that the late fees would fall off once everything got put in. Is there still, just for people's peace of mind, a way within the system to just to basically put that late fee process that would automatically put it on, if there's a way within the system to put that on hold so that that wasn't being, that people wouldn't be seeing it, and even that might reduce your call load, honestly, if you're getting calls every 5 minutes at the office, or sorry, every 5 seconds at the office all day long. Maybe you'd be getting less if there was a way to kind of mitigate people's seeing that and then being very worried about it.
Correct.
So yeah, I don't know if that's an answer that you even have, or if there's a way to look into doing that, but I believe that was kind of the point that she was getting at, and I kind of agree with that. So also for the auto pay thing, as I understand it from somebody who had reached out to me, the auto pay, I think you kind of just mentioned that basically it's on people themselves to shut the auto pay down. And then am I getting that correct? Like they should be calling you to tell you, hey, don't take my auto payment out. Is that
Correct.
correct?
They should be calling us and requesting that we either deactivate or just delete, you know, any information about their bank accounts from our taxing system.
Okay. Is there nothing within the system though that would throw up some sort of alert or anything if somebody set up auto pay for the same property or address that would then flag it, and kind of, because the person that I've been reached out to, they were basically told that the auto pay came out and that they would need to be in contact with the new owner, and the new owner had said that they also had auto pay set up and it came out. So I think the point that they were kind of getting at was that 2 different auto pays were taken out for the same property. And I just
It's
wondered
my experience that only one auto pay can be set up. Maybe it was the case that one auto pay was set up for the same parcel, and then the new owner signed up to escrow their taxes with the mortgage. I mean, that's a possibility. There is absolutely no way in the system for us to be alerted that there's been a change in ownership for a specific parcel. But even if that was the case, we do have property owners that do not pay their own taxes. Somebody else pays their taxes. So I think that would be a little bit too much for maybe the system to handle, or for us to assume that because there was a change in ownership that now we need to change the auto pay automatically withdrawal system as well. So this is the reason why we require that the person or the persons who want to use automatic pay withdrawal, the same person that signed up is the same person that needs to contact us to deactivate it. And we need this in writing. Right now, we are taking phone calls of people that are very upset, and we're trying to work with them. And we are asking for email follow-up, so we have something in writing. But, you know, we're trying to avoid errors that are going to cause the county resources and time in the future.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks. I mean, I think at the root of it, I think a lot of us are probably recommending to people to just not use autopay, which I think might be the best kind of way forward for now, at least. But yeah, if there would be a way to try to figure out the other issue though, the late fee, if it could just be kind of paused for now, I think that would probably maybe save you some headaches as well in the office. So
Thank
thanks.
you. And also before you, I want to make sure I answer your first question. So we are working with one of the vendors. So the vendor that hosts the public system where you can see the late fee being assessed, we're trying to work with them to have that not showed because that is creating a great panic. And again, I see in the chat section that somebody said their check cleared in the bank, but they were still charged late fees on all 3 properties. I believe Bob Andrews, you're welcome to contact us directly and we can look into the situation and follow up with you and make sure that those late fees were not assessed. Okay, so
Josh, you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. I say, Mr. McGuire, you're next, and Ms. Eisenman, you still have your hand up.
Thank you. Mr. Andrews' question kind of, I've got someone else who has the same problem. They've actually paid their taxes, but it's still noted as not paid, and there's penalties. I wonder how many people have the same issue, and how would you know? Are you recommending then that everybody check, has been said on Facebook and everywhere else, and then call the treasurer's office? Because there's no way to know that their taxes, aren't paid or are paid, and it's not showing on the treasurer's office.
And so again, it's this website that it's available to the public that's creating this panic because that website is not updated until we have posted all payments into our tax system. So once we post all payments into the tax system, then that public website will be created and the penalties that are showing will be automatically removed from the system. If everything or if payments were made prior to June 1st or on June 1st. And so we're working on that. And so I guess another example of our collection method is on the tax bill, we asked taxpayers to send payment to a PO box number. And we hired a third-party service provider through Busey Bank to help us process those checks that were arriving at the PO box location. We were overwhelmed with the amount of checks that were mailed to our offices. We had at one point possibly 7 big postal service tubs filled with mail. And each piece of mail we had to open manually because at one point our machine broke down. The machine that opens the envelopes broke down. So at that point, we just decided to hire the third service provider, InfoPro, to help us process payments at Busey Bank. At this point, now they are done processing payments at Busey Bank, or InfoPro is done processing those payments, and we are waiting on our lists, the special or the text file, so that we could take this list and export it into the tax system once we've cleaned it up. Because when we get the list, we have to clean it up for errors. And once it's exported into the system, then that system will communicate with the website that is available to the public, and then it will show paid and the fees will show removed or will not appear on that website.
And at that point, it'll show the taxes as paid also, because it's someone has paid their taxes, received the check, but it still shows their taxes as not paid.
That is correct because depending on how they paid, if they paid through a check that was mailed to our PO box, then that is something that was collected and processed through InfoPro, the third-party service provider through Busey Bank. And so they've processed that, and now we're working with InfoPro to provide us with that file text so that we could export it into the DevNet system, and it can show paid in that public website.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, no problem. And yes, in general, we do have a new system, or the DevNet system is fairly new. I think the county has been using it for the last 2 years. So we do use two collection systems. Well, again, several collection systems. And the tax system, DevNet, the only collection availability that it has to the public is the automatic pay withdrawal. So that's the only way that they can assist us in collecting payments. The website, the public website that the taxpayers are using to view information related to their tax bills or assessments, that website is a different tax collection method. And so those are two collection methods there. The checks that were mailed to the PO box, that's our third collection method. And, we had to hire the third-party service provider. And so we are trying to balance we're trying to balance, systems, coordinating with various banks, with various service providers. There's quite a bit of that going on.
Are there any other questions from other board members? Diane Michaels, do you have a follow-up? Then I have one
Very
final
quickly.
question.
Would there be a way that that I could contact you sometime, or would you contact me? That's reasonable. I've got several questions, and I don't think I need to hold up the board for them. Having to do with different constituents. I know that your time is precious, but even just a few minutes would probably make them feel comfortable. One is a couple of different corporates. If you would want to email me, my email's there, or you can call at your convenience. That would be great.
Diane, I couldn't really hear you, so I know you're asking.
Sorry, if you would have an opportunity at your convenience, I think my email phone number is all on the board there, or the administrative office can give it to you. I have a few questions, but I didn't want to hold the board up for them. I've got a couple of corporates with some questions, and maybe if you could answer them real quick, I could at least put them to ease a little bit. That would be great.
Yes, that would be great. Of course, we would welcome that. Thank you. Also, I guess Marisol would also like me to share that we don't have enough staff members because we don't have the budget to hire anyone. So pretty much when we joined this office, our budget was pretty much gone. And that's because last year, I guess the funds were used to hire several people. I think at one point, maybe 4 or 5 people to help catch up the previous administration on the tax processing, payments and collection and distribution. And currently it's just 2 full-time account clerks, 1 part-time staff, Marisol and myself in the office.
Anybody else with a question? Sort of to wrap this up, I was going to ask if you had a timeline yet that you could put out there for kind of completing the processing of these payments, or is it still too early?
2 weeks max. That's our timeline.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you both for being here this evening.
Thank you for having us.
Mr. McGuire, could you lower your hand, please? We're up to item C, auditor. The monthly reports are out there. Any questions for the auditor? I know George is on here. Okay, item D, county executive. There's an update on the ERP selection process. I'm not sure whether it's Darlene. Darlene, do you want to address this?
Yeah, that would actually, I've asked Joel if he would join us tonight. He is our program manager for the ERP project. So I've asked Joel if he would join Joel, are you on?
Yeah,
he
I'm
is.
here.
Okay.
Yeah, let me get my camera going. Hello. You want me to pick up where you left off?
Go ahead, Joel. Thank you.
All right. So if you remember last year, there was an IT plan presented and it was approved. And in that plan, one of the major items was replacement of the current computer system, the financial system, with an ERP system, enterprise resource planning. The focus of that would be finance, HR, and payroll. So last October, we released the RFP. We received 7 proposals back, and through the core team evaluation, we picked 3 finalists to have them come in and do software demonstrations. Those demos were early this calendar year. And so we did the demos, we had follow-up demos, we talked to 12 to 15 customer references from all 3 vendors. That was a total number of references. And out of the 3 finalists, we have selected and are recommending that the Tyler Technologies Munis ERP system is what we should select and move forward with. At this point, we have pricing, we have contracts. We're in negotiation with the contract details and the statement of work. And we've also started contacting the various departments to get points of contact to help to get ready to kick off the project. And we expect to bring the proposal to the board for approval next month in July. That's a quick recap. So questions, things of interest? Is that Mr. Storr?
Thank you. I'm curious, are there any other counties or governmental entities in Illinois that use this system? And what's been their experience?
Okay, for the Munis system, there are several. It tends to be more cities than counties. Where's my note? I had that list and apparently I misplaced it here. Just a second, let me see. Oh, here we go. So in Illinois, like Rockford, City of Rockford, Streamwood, Oswego, use Tyler. We talked to Surprise, Arizona, on Tyler, Columbus, Indiana, Kendall County in Illinois, and Dare County in North Carolina. Those are Tyler customers, and we have a couple we've talked to with the other vendors. And they're all positive on Tyler. I mean, there's things you have to watch for, but Tyler has come across as a very good company to work with.
Okay. I mean, software is good, but support is critical for this sort of thing. Trying to get bug, especially when you're just learning to use it. But I'm sure that you looked at the timeliness and thoroughness of technical support responses. Or maybe you could kind of elaborate on why you folks selected Tyler over some others, please.
Tyler I'll give you the other names just so you know. We talked to a company, AKA Solutions. They were proposing the Microsoft Dynamics, Dynamics 365 product was a very large product. The other one was Central Square Technologies. Tyler comes across as a very stable company, responsive to customer needs. Their support, talking with customers, was more responsive compared to the other two. The Tyler is more focused on government agencies. We just felt they were, of the things we looked at, they were the best fit.
Is this a program that is run from the cloud online, or is it resident on some computers and people get a token ring, or how does that work?
Okay, the information that we've presented to the committee here is the cloud-based version of their system. They do have an in-house version we could have gone with, but we thought the direction was to move things to the cloud and have support be outsourced.
We've talked about that before, Chris, with our IT team about trying to get more things moved to the cloud. That was part of our IT plan.
Back to your support question, we were very comfortable with what we heard from other customers about Tyler themselves as a company in support. And they also have what they call the Tyler community, a user-based forum that seems to be very responsive to each other, really kind of independent of Tyler itself.
I found those to be very helpful sometimes, and
sometimes, sometimes, yeah, sometimes not. But again, the various places we talked to, they very much encouraged us to make use of the forum, the community.
Stephanie, did you have a question? I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I have a few questions. They're all financial questions. So the estimated cost is $595,000, and then there's the estimated annual service fees. Would we be paying those annual service fees in the startup year, or would those only kick in after it's implemented?
Right now, our understanding is that's at startup. We're going to see if we can negotiate that and defer it for maybe at least half a year.
Okay.
But it's meant to be a first, right at the beginning when they set up our environment, we would be paying those licensing fees.
Okay. So those two would be combined. Even with that, in the IT plan that we voted on, and I get that IT plan is a plan, right? The amount that the amount that we anticipated, I think, or that is marked for the ERP in 2020 was double. It was 1.5 million. And so we were in the finance agenda committee, we were pretty pleasantly surprised that this is so much lower. Is it lower than we anticipated? And why?
I have to go by what you just told me. Because I came into it, clean. I've been on board for a year. So I reacted to what we got back from the RFP.
Okay.
Tyler and Central Square, let me give you a sense of how it played out here. So we picked three: Tyler, Central Square, and AKA Microsoft Dynamics. And no matter what phase we were in on review, whether it was proposal evaluation by the core team, demonstration evaluation by all the attendees, general ranking followed Tyler, Central Square, AKA. Okay, for observation and opinion. Then money-wise, it came in Tyler, Central Square, AKA. Central Square was probably about 200,000 higher than Tyler. So we had two. Functionally, they seemed similar. Price-wise, they were similar. This is one of those support issues where the feedback we got on Central Square was support was not as good with them. Then you jump to the AKA Microsoft side. It was probably 1.2 million higher than either of the other two. Why? Part of it was the cost of Microsoft. So, and then we had other quotes that were even higher. So, we use pricing really kind of as a final criteria to get to our decision.
And I wanted to mention that Andy Rhodes mentioned that the budgetary estimates and the IT plan for the ERP system came from the work that the county did with the GFOA back in 2016. And that's the estimate they gave us for the counties of our size. So just so that, and then the last question I do have is, and this might be more of a Tammy question, is I believe that this year we have $500,000 in our budget for this. And obviously this price is higher. I don't know if the annual or recurring fees would come out of that portion of the budget. But my guess is we would not be expending this project is not going to be done by 2020's end. So
no,
it would continue, correct? Into
just a general time frame, start August, September this year, finish December of next year. So 15 to 18 months.
Okay. And Tammy, I know you're probably going to present the revenue thing, so maybe we could talk about that. I guess my last question would be, are we going to need to do any additional appropriations once we but you don't have to answer that right now. But thank you. I appreciate, I know that it's been a large mountain to get us to this point, and so thank you for your work on this.
Yeah, the big mountains that right ahead of us once we get approval. All right. Any other questions, Chris?
Mr. Storr, do you have a follow-up?
Mr. Storr?
I sure do. Thank you. One of the things that it can sometimes be a problem is being able to transfer data or information between other software applications. Could you speak to that, please? Because we're trying to move a lot of stuff off the AS400 to more to newer stuff. Thank you.
Do you have anything specific to that, or just is a general question?
Well, no, I don't. But we bought DevNet for one application, and we're probably we've got other applications that we're going to be working with for. One of them is animal control, and that's the only one that kind of comes to mind. But I think some of the criminal justice stuff and so forth, and how well does this Tyler system play with other applications? Do they let them have access to what they need to in order to transfer information?
Okay, that's part of, we still have to look at more closely. Extracting data to another system or importing from another system, it seems fairly straightforward. Now, with being an ERP system and with the idea we do financial, HR, payroll, timekeeping as a new system, we've eliminated a lot of the need for pulling data back and forth because it'll be contained in one bucket. So we've gained efficiencies there. Then we have to look at what we have to send data out to. Yeah, I'll stop. Does that help? Or
yeah, well, yeah, it's reached the end of my questions. I just I just know that
the fewer interfaces, the better. That is a general statement.
If people kind of, say at Kendall County say we use it and it works well with other systems that we use for jail management or whatever, criminal justice, animal control, I'd certainly ask about that.
Okay, I understand. And you're talking about interface data back and forth versus taking data from one system to get it into the new system. You're not talking conversion. You're talking more the back and forth exchange.
I suppose. I know that at some point we'll probably, all of these things will want to be moving stuff from one thing to another for one reason or another that maybe it doesn't occur to us right now because we have a particular way that we have been used to doing that. But I hate those kinds of surprises.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Right there with you. Okay.
Are there any other questions? I have one, Joel, and you might have addressed this, but and maybe this is way too early to even talk about, but Champaign and Urbana are also on Tyler. So is there enough similarity between what we all do that we can someday look at an IG agreement or something so we have a Tyler expert amongst Champaign, Urbana, and Champaign County, or is it way too early to start talking? I don't know the commonality. In other words, is a city really similar to the county in the way that
I think it's a little early. We did talk to Champaign and Urbana about the same time we were doing putting the RFP together. So we have not talked to them since.
Okay.
They're on the same software, but their processes are not the same.
Excuse me, this is Darlene. So I have had conversations with Urbana in particular about some sharing of IT services, Jim, and the one of the key factors would be when you're setting up your system to start with, you have to set it up with all the financial lines and charts of accounts and everything that you use. And so sometimes, obviously, the system is the same, but whether they will work together, it may or may not be the case. But I have started those conversations, and we will continue to do that.
Well, I guess my question probably pertain more to having a person at one of those cities or at the county that's kind of a Tyler expert. So in other words, if you've got a go-to question, is there somebody that we can ask? Because obviously we won't have a Tyler expert at the county for a while until we get on and use it. And I just know software programs, as we've converted at our office, everything sounds great when you're in training, and then when you're live and you're on your own, and it's a challenge. There's no question.
So part of the IT plan that you guys approved last December was that we would begin to do that with our, what we're calling desktop support people, that we would have people actually learn the systems, not just the networking and setup and programming, but also would actually learn to help users use the systems. And so that is on the radar as far as trying to do that. And again, that was part of the conversation with Urbana, that they also see the value of that because they have just a few people, and it would be nice if we were sharing a system to have somebody that was an expert at it locally. Also, Joel was talking about the user group that there is formed for Tyler. So the various agencies that already use the system have formed a user group, which this is happening more and more with national systems, so that the users themselves can help each other rather than always having to call the provider of the vendor for things that are actually like on the ground, what they need to know. So,
well, so much value of that is in the fact that, they can talk some of the similar language, and it's not techie language necessarily. And they can say, okay, well, here's the way we made that work. And this is in the system. This is the 4 or 5 steps that make this process happen. So I think that's the value of Champaign County going to Tyler, is just nothing else, to have some local folks that we probably know that we can talk to.
Yeah.
So that's all I had, Joel. I know it's kind of a really early question, but.
Yeah, no problem. Darlene answered it very well.
Diane Michaels, you've got your hand up.
Real quick, as you all were talking about that, I know that there is a person in Urbana in their accounting department that used to work in our auditor's department. So we really do have some some people that may have prior knowledge of the county and then knowledge of the new system that, could also be talked to early on. I said I know of an employee that's in Urbana right now that was in the auditor's office that used our old system, and they're of course using their system. So like Jim said, there are people that have actually used our old county system that probably are physically sitting with this system close by that could talk their own language again.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry, I had my mute on. Joel, thank you. Appreciate
Oh,
it very much.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, time for Tammy Ogden to give us revenue production or budget projection updates.
Good evening. Stephanie, I'll go ahead and comment on your question earlier. I wasn't planning to discuss that during the projection report, but you are correct. We did budget $500,000 in fiscal year 20 for replacement of the ERP. So I don't anticipate that we'll need to ask for additional appropriation. I think it'll just be important that we structure the contract to fit with our budget. And we have also plans to discuss with other funds the equitable sharing of cost of the ERP moving forward during the budget process as well. And I'm going to try to share my screen. I know that Megan sent out a link to the monthly budget report this afternoon. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it yet. So I'm sharing it here. I don't know if it's too small for you to read or not. But I want to preface this projection report with a couple of comments. First of all, there are still a lot of assumptions being made at this point as we continue to navigate the impact of COVID-19 and the stay-at-home order on the county's revenue sources. Additionally, there are still several revenue streams that are behind in being posted to the county's financial system. Predominantly, those are revenues that the county is receiving electronically. And so this makes it even more difficult for me to put together this report. But nonetheless, I'm going to go over this. I think I will probably just focus on the major categories, and we'll start with a revenue report. You can see under local taxes, the biggest budget variance there is in the property tax line. And that is the result of two major impacts, one of which are the 11 budget amendments that you approved earlier tonight associated with the Carr ruling, which are being treated as a revenue reduction. And the other impact to that line is predominantly because the county, when we levied for fiscal year 2020, prepared our property tax levy to capture potential additional new growth revenue associated with a favorable ruling in the hospital property tax case, which, as you know, did not happen. So that is the bulk of that $1.16 million that you see the budget variance for property taxes. There are also some minor impacts that are projected to hotel motel tax, auto rental tax as well, and those are related to the COVID situation. And the largest category impacted by the COVID situation and the stay-at-home order is state shared revenues. So it's about a $2.2 million loss that I'm projecting at this point. The county's 1 cent sales tax revenue is one of those lines that will be impacted by COVID. However, even prior to COVID, was showing significant declines in collections. And the first 4 months of the fiscal year, actually revenues are down 25% compared to the same 4-month period a year ago. And so this is the result, and we've talked about this several times in the budget meetings, of the top 10 taxpayers making up a significant portion of this revenue stream. So if there's an operational change or a closure of business for one of those top 10 taxpayers, it can have a significant impact on these revenues. And so what I have done is requested from the Illinois Department of Revenue the allocation report that we can request. And in fact, it does show that one of the county's top 10 taxpayers has shown significant decline in revenues. So in addition to the impact of COVID, I just want to make you aware of the fact that there is also an impact related to the operational changes of one of our top taxpayers. The quarter-cent sales tax revenue is the other very significant decline that is being projected. There were fairly strong first quarter earnings for the quarter-cent sales tax, but in the end, COVID is at this time projected to reduce revenue by over $1 million. And in March, we do have the March collection numbers. They have been posted by the Department of Revenue. And March, which you know was only partially affected by the stay-at-home order, the collections were down 20% compared to March of 2019. And I just want to make a general note about sales taxes and the difference between the time the budget was prepared and now. When we prepared the budget, we were anticipating the playing field legislation to be effective July 1st of 2020. That's what the legislation that the legislature had passed, had stated. However, on November 14th of last year, the state amended that legislation. And that was literally, I think, like a week before we ended up approving our budget. So that legislation, the new legislation, made the level playing field legislation effective on January 1st of 2021. So the county will not see any of those additional revenues that we were partially anticipating to receive this fiscal year. One of the new lines that you see on here is the cannabis tax. And that tax that the county will begin receiving July 1st, well, we will begin receiving in October for collections beginning in July 1st. We did not budget for this because at the time we prepared the budget, we really did not have a good idea of what these revenues would be. And I'm really glad we didn't budget for it because it is going to help mitigate the impact of other budget factors at this point. So in consultation with the city of Champaign and the city of Urbana, and looking at what their revenue projections are for the cannabis sales tax, I am projecting about $340,000 in revenue the county will receive this year. Unfortunately, that amount would have been higher had the original April 1st date that was in effect for this tax to be collected by the state would have stayed April 1st. They unfortunately pushed that to July 1st. So we will miss out on 3 months of those revenues. And income tax is the other state shared revenue line that I want to point out. At this time, I'm still projecting a negative $700,000 decline to budget. I really don't have a good feel for what this is going to look like. We have received March collections, and I really can't compare those to 2019 because if you remember in 2019, I'm trying to remember, it was March, April. No, I'm sorry, give me 1 minute. I know for sure March, I can't remember the second month, but there was one-time impacts that were affecting March that caused us to collect a significantly large amount of revenues that were anomalies related to federal tax law changes and also a strong stock market the prior fiscal year. So what I did was I looked at the 3 years prior to 2019, and I looked at the average of collections for March in those years. And March of 2020 is down $113,000 compared to the average of the 3 years that I looked at. April, however, collections for 2020 are flat against April of 2019. So this is one of those revenue streams that I think may have a little bit more of, it may take me a little bit longer to get a better grip on what the impact of unemployment is going to be on income tax. The good news for income tax that I have to share with you is that the state did pass its 2021 budget, and they are not extending the 5% cut as of July 1st of this year. So that'll be the first year in several that they will not be garnishing our income tax revenues. A couple of other smaller revenue lines that will be impacted will be video gaming and school resource officer reimbursement. Our school resource officers were not working in the schools for a couple of months, and therefore we will not be receiving reimbursement from the schools for those officers' salaries. And then the last major revenue line that will be impacted is going to be the court fees and fines. Again, I don't have a good basis for projections for what the impact is going to be on that. I don't think we really will have a good understanding of what the impact is going to be until much later in the fiscal year, predominantly because of the administrative order issued by the judiciary that extends the due dates for court-ordered fees and fines. So you can see the budget variance at this point is projected to be a little over negative $4 million for 2020. Again, with about $1 million of that being related to the property tax case situation. And so for the expenditure projection, we do anticipate underspending in personnel and also services. Efforts by departments to cut cost and hold positions vacant will result in even further savings in those categories. Two of the big impacts that you see here came from a decision made to defer the capital projects that hadn't yet been started. And so that will be about a $700,000 savings. And also the all other capital line, you can see negative $70,000. That is county clerk identified underspending for election equipment. So at this point, underspending is projected to be about 1.9 million. And so for the summary page, I want to stress that the ending fund balance for fiscal year 2019 is unaudited. And so that number at this point sits at a little over $7 million, but we will not have that audited number until I assume later in this year. The revenue to expenditure difference is projected to be a negative $1.9 million, which would result in a fund balance of a little over $5 million at the end of 2020. Again, at this point is still a projection. That translates to a percentage of the expenditure budget of 13.4%. And as you know, our minimum recommended fund balance percentage is 12.5%. So, you know, I'm hopeful that there will be better revenue projections for me to bring to you each month, and that they will be positive, because as I had mentioned during the 5-year financial forecast, you know, we were preparing for what we thought to be a worst case scenario. I hope it was a worst case scenario. I know department heads and elected officials, as Darlene had mentioned last month, have been working closely with the county executive's office to, you know, save money, to hold positions vacant as long as possible, and help mitigate the impact of the revenue loss by reducing expenditures for fiscal year 2020 to keep us in a position where we will be able to retain a healthy fund balance percentage. And that concludes my presentation, Jim.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Are there questions? Looks like Stephanie, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Tammy. I asked her to do this report. Tammy and I have talked on the phone several times about how these funds were tracking, but I thought it was super useful. The Finance Committee thought that this would be an important conversation for the board to have. And while recognizing that, you know, as you walked us through that some of these are just projections, I really appreciate this. I found these reports that you give to us, I think, are the most useful fiscal snapshot that we get on the county board. And you know, we're all going to have to pull together to make these next couple of years work. I want to thank publicly also thank the clerk and the rest of the elected officials and department heads who I know have been working hard to identify ways that they can slow down spending or cut their budgets in order to keep our staff as whole as possible and get us through this hard time. So, you know, thank you, Clerk Ammons, and thank you for the rest of the elected officials for the work you've been doing on that. And just finally, I just want to recognize that this presentation that took, you know, 10 minutes is hours and hours of work on Tammy's part. Just getting these projections, tracking down the revenue, talking to the different experts about this is a tremendous amount of labor, and I appreciate it a great deal.
Thank you, Stephanie, for the kind comments for Tammy. I would second those. Kyle, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Tammy and the rest of the staff. Just in these really uncertain times, your job is to attempt to make certainty of a very complex system and make it make sense to us. And I just want to thank you. I know you've had a lot of struggles over the past years as far as hurdles the county has faced, but your service is really greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind comments, all.
Anyone else? Yeah, I would like to say I hope that a new ERP system helps Tammy develop these, because I can't imagine what kind of a mess these are to try to prepare. And she used to prepare them, if we remember, on a monthly basis. So I'm really hoping that it probably won't spit it out and look like this, but boy, I agree with Stephanie. This is really a nice, easy snapshot for us to look at in 3 small pages that we can make some financial decisions. And obviously that's more critical now than ever. So any other questions, comments on this report? Okay, Ms. Ogden, thank you so much again. We're down to other business. Any other business to be brought before the board? Have no chair's report. Let's see, items for consent agenda. Okay, 10A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Is there anyone who disputes that? Okay, with that, Chair Rosales, I turn the microphone back over to you.
Well, I have no other business, and we stand adjourned at 9:05. What was that?
Anybody can bring up other business at this point, correct?
I have no other business. Do you have any other business you want to address?
Oh, I do. Yeah, if that's okay, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. I didn't know if it was better at the top or the bottom of the meeting, and I figured I would just this is kind of directed at county board members and also other elected officials. And Kyle spoke to it a little bit, and sort of the clerk. You know, we've had kind of a crazy couple of weeks with different marches and assemblies and things like that happening, even down into very small towns from both ends and both top and bottom of the state. And it's been really interesting to watch. We had one in Champaign on Saturday that was organized by mostly people that were in their teens, and a couple thousand people out there. And you saw the overhead shots that looked really, really incredible. And I just want to make sure that that we are supporting them in these efforts to make sure that voices are heard and that we are, you know, we're looked to be an example. We're looked to be speaking out on issues. And I think if you aren't speaking up and speaking out right now, particularly about you know, justice and reform and things like that, I'm not really sure what you ran for office for in the first place. So it's been really cool. Monticello had one. Obviously, that's not in our county. Mahomet. Last night, a few of us actually that are sitting here right now happened to be out there, including the clerk and our state rep. Were out there in Mahomet at their event, and that was a pretty interesting moment as somebody who didn't grow up there but did go to high school there, to see the assemblage of people there. Didn't spot a ton of county board members out there, but you know, there are more to come. So hopefully, maybe some of you can make it out there and make your voices heard. Yeah, it's just, you know, it's a tough time, and and I'm looking at the people that look like me in this room, which is a lot of our county board members and a lot of our elected officials have white skin, and we're the ones that need to be we need to be listening to people that don't look like us, but we need to be speaking to people that do look like us. This is a national issue. It's not just in Minneapolis. It's not just in Chicago. It's not just in Champaign. It's all over our county, and it's all over our country. So I really do want to thank everybody. One of the organizations that organized one of the marches, they did want to hear, obviously with masks, it's harder to tell which elected officials might have been there. So if any of you were out, if you've got pictures or anything like that, if you want to email them to me, I would love to tell them who all was there, so they're putting together a list of elected officials that have been out there speaking out and participating. And I don't know, we haven't run quite as long as I kind of expected tonight. I don't know, I might be the only one, but we kind of cut short some discussion earlier, and I wasn't really sure. I have no real knowledge of what's going on with this Rantoul TIF situation, and I don't know if there was anything else that was supposed to be talked about there. But if we're burning out a little bit of time right now, I don't know if anybody had any more questions for the clerk, or if the clerk had anything else to add. But I certainly wouldn't mind hearing more about it personally. So.
Well, I am happy to offer further clarification on what was going on in Rantoul and what is going on in Rantoul. I think it's important for the taxpayers to know that
is complete.
when we have, excuse me. So I think it's important to note that when we have a situation like that to occur, that from a professional standpoint, if any office is going to be accused of doing something, especially of this nature, a mistake like this, then they should at least have some sort of facts to support it, and to have a superintendent of the schools to call me out by name and to mention me publicly in my office, and to say that we shared misinformation, and without even calling me to talk to me about it, is a level of unprofessionalism that I think needs to be addressed. And so those county board members who are representing that area, I hope that they would give them a call and express their concerns about that. The other thing that I think is important is to, again, as we talk about the state statutes and all of the things that have been aimed at me by various different people, Republicans and Democrats, and some Democrats.
But Aaron, let me interrupt you. Please do not personalize it. Stick to the business of the board.
Oh yes, sir, Mr. Rosales. I'll make sure that I keep it about the business of the board. So that's what I'm speaking to.
The agenda for the board is over. You know, being attacked by elected officials isn't appropriate, and we need to call the meeting over.
I don't know why somebody else is allowed to interrupt me.
Jim, let him finish, Jim. Go ahead, Aaron.
I wanted to make sure that was clear is that as I am being called to the board to speak to these particular issues, one of the issues with these drainage districts and things like that, people need to understand, the board needs to know that there's a circuit clerk also who is a part of this process when it comes to levying and drainage districts and things like that. So I would hope that even the circuit clerk is going to be called to the table to speak to issues that may be occurring in her office in the way that I'm being called to the table to answer questions about taxes and levying in my office. So I don't want this to become not just a personalized issue, Mr. Rosales, but a party and political issue either. So I am personally thankful though that I had the opportunity to see some things on the horizon, some things that are changing because the behaviors that are taking place here that are aimed at me are, you know, I think they need to be addressed in a more appropriate manner. And just to close out what I was sharing with you all earlier, I'm happy about one thing though. I'm inspired by the spirit of resistance and rebellion that we see in the streets of our cities. And lastly, I went to the Promise March in Muhammad that Mike was just talking about. I went to that Promise March in Muhammad of all places last night, and it was a sight to behold. A small, predominantly white sundown town standing up for justice and challenging the racist ideology and behaviors of people who have dominated those towns for too long. I watched them cry. I watched them yell, Black Lives Matter, in a place 2 years ago that some were afraid to even put my yard signs in their yard. So I know that the Jim Gossers and the more clever racists like Mark Sheldon are dying breeds. So enjoy your last hurrah.
Thank you for your
Done.
final words. We stand adjourned. It is 9:14. Thank you.